Welcome back to another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. My guest today is Mike DiCioccio. He is the founder and president of Social Chameleon, a podcast company, production, distribution. We talked all about podcasts, all about helping people, and how he has spent his life dedicated to helping others become the best that they can be. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. I'm Craig DiVizzio. I'm excited today to talk to a brother, so to speak. Have you ever met somebody and you find out after you talk to him for a while that you have a lot of things in common? Well, Mike DiCioccio is from Buffalo, New York, and I was born in Buffalo. He is of Italian heritage, as am I. We both have our own businesses that include podcasts. But what I'm most excited about, Mike, is a lot of people talk about wanting to help their community, wanting to help the world, help people in any way that they can. And a lot of people, that's just wording. There are some people, however, who act on that and have turned their life into helping others. Mike is one of those people, and for that, I applaud him. Let me tell you a little bit about Mike. He is the founder and president of Social Chameleon, a podcast production, distribution, and content company. He leads with a service above self mentality, seeking ways that he can make a positive change within his community and in the world. He's also the host of Mic'd Up, a podcast with a mission to help inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. He loves helping entrepreneurs, businesses, and brands tell their story and connect with their audiences. Mike, pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Craig. I've been looking forward to this for a long time now, so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you to the audience, everybody who's tuning in. If there's one takeaway that you can get from me today, then I'm serving my purpose.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have more than that. And we had a great conversation last time we talked, so I'm looking forward to it too. You're in the business right now of helping a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and we're going to get to those throughout the time we spend together. But how did you? A lot of people want to know the backstory. How did you get to the point where you've got your own business, you're doing a podcast, and you're involved in your community? What's your backstory that led you in this direction?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize it because it is a little bit of a windy road. There's not a direct path where I woke up one day, had a dream, and then on day two, I was already attacking the dream. It definitely didn't happen that way. I'll share a little bit about my backstory. I know you mentioned that you also were born in Buffalo, New York. So shout out to all the Buffalonians that may be tuning in to hear from me. I'm currently here in Buffalo. Family is a blue collar family. Dad worked at the Ford plant here in Buffalo and at the stamping plant. So I grew up blue collar. My big thing growing up was just, without it even being said, was always to respect my family. It's an Italian thing where you want to do them well. And whenever I goofed up in school and stuff, I certainly found out about it, or they always knew about it when I got home. So I grew up with a respect for my family and for my ancestors. And as I got a little older, I started to realize the story of my family. I think you'll appreciate this. They're directly from Italy and came over. Both sets of grandparents came over, different times, different situations. The way that my parents met was interesting. And the fact is, look, they came over for a better opportunity for their family, right? And they did. And they made many different stops along the way. My mom's side went from Italy to Brooklyn to Buffalo. My dad's side went from Italy to Venezuela to different parts of Buffalo to eventually where we ended up in our current neighborhood, where the family's at. And they did it all for a better opportunity for their future children and grandchildren. And if I sit here and just collect dust at a 9-to-5 job, hating it all day long and not really making this planet a better place than I was born in 1986. I don't know when my end date is, but whenever that is, I certainly hope that somehow this place and the people on this planet are better off for my existence. I do feel that's my responsibility. I think we all have that responsibility. I have a strong faith. I believe in God. So that took a little while for me to get there. Grew up Catholic because I was told that we were Catholic and told to go to school.
Right.
I went to religion class, and this is not a knock on the Catholic Church. That's fine. If somebody is into that, that's cool. But I always didn't, it didn't resonate with me because to me, like the way it was presented to me, it didn't click. So it wasn't interesting to me. So I wasn't interested in it. Same thing happened for school. I'll share a little bit about that. So I always was a believer growing up, but then I started to struggle with my faith in my early 20s. And interestingly enough, I fell in love with a girl who was a strong Christian and really into church and all that. And then she kind of got me thinking about it in a different way, where it was more of a connection with Jesus and reading from the Bible than it was just a kind of go in and do this kind of more ritualistic religion. Again, this is no shot at anybody or anything. It's just how things played out for me.
Right. Your
But
personal experience, sure.
my personal experience. So I started to really, I was looking for a connection to God. I wanted some kind of sign or signal or like, and I was really having a hard time with it. And I'm going to kind of jump around in the story, but I'll get back to like how I got to where I'm at today to answer your question.
Sure.
But one of the biggest turning points in my life, it was a couple of years ago when I was actually already an entrepreneur and struggling my first couple of years. And I really had no choice but to surrender, because not just about everything went sideways, right? You're like, if I put a stake in the ground, the wind would blow it over. Like, it just felt like everything I tried was falling apart. And God knows how to get my attention for sure. It's a frying pan is the way he gets my attention. Kind of that old school Italian, hey, straighten out. Yeah. And so I surrendered a couple of years ago and actually got baptized in the Christian faith because I got so strong to my connection. And I realized the problem was, Craig, and anyone tuning in right now, I was trying to do it my way. I was trying to do it for Mike. I thought everything was about my story, and I realized it wasn't. It's his story, and it's I'm a soldier in his army. When I say him, I'm talking about God right now, and that's my personal belief. And I feel like I'm serving for him, and he, it's his story. He put me here to walk my path and be myself, but also to inspire people to be the best version of themselves. I always say, be great and be grateful, and it all is for him, through him. So that's my current connection to why I'm doing all these cool things and initiatives. But way back, to get you back into my childhood, I grew up, again, blue collar, and did not have an entrepreneurial, upbringing by any means, or even know what that word meant. It wasn't really used, at least when I was growing up. I later find out that both of my grandpas owned their own delis, different necks of the town, and didn't even know each other when that was happening, which is interesting. So I actually did have an entrepreneurial family in a sense, but I didn't even know it until I was like in my 30s, right? And I'm 36 today. What happened was, when things really turned around for me, I'll just summarize, like, as a kid, I love music and I love movies. And I played the drums throughout school, so that was a passion of mine. And I loved creating, before we called it content, movies with the family video camera. My brother and I would write screenplays. We'd shoot them with our friends. And then throughout school, I was in every school band. Never really did the video production thing in school, because I'd go and do it when I was home, and we had more fun doing it that way. But then I hit college, and they ask you the big question: what do you want to do with your life, right? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What's your profession? And I didn't really have an answer. I knew I wanted to help children in some way, so I actually went for elementary education. And about a year into that, I'm in a class creating assignments, like teaching kids how to count with blocks and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I think somebody else is probably better suited to do this. I think I was kind of chasing the summers off at that point, and I realized I needed to really get real with myself. And my advisor said, well, if you can do anything, what would it be? I was like, honestly, I love making movies, and with my brother, I thought we were going to be like the next Spielberg and Zemeckis. And she was laughing. She's like, well, what about the television and film and arts department? And she points out the window, and it literally was in the window of the next brick building. And I'm like, I didn't know what that was. I thought that was like student admissions building. I had no idea that. Like, in the basement, there's a studio. So right away, I was like a cloud of smoke. When she turned around, I was signed up for every class. I did media production. I got my Bachelor of Arts degree from Buffalo State. And then, not a shot at Buffalo, but not a ton of opportunities here in the like freelance video. You're basically going to be a wedding videographer. So my passion kind of took a back seat. I got married when I was 25, and my wife's dad was a pharmaceutical regional vice president. And his influence in my life was really key, because He also went to the same college I went to. He also had a communications degree, and he was making good money and also like raised a family the right way. And so he was a positive influence. Not saying my dad wasn't. My dad was like, work hard, provide for the family. But I certainly didn't want to work at the Ford plant. I just wasn't interested in doing the labor side of that.
Right.
Didn't excite me. So I started to pursue sales. Did that for about a dozen years. And every sales job I had, I always landed well. At the end of the year, I was on some kind of list or rewards or award ceremony. And was it just to see my name in the lights? No, I actually always connected myself to the product or service. And I was prideful in that I was helping people out. I worked at Sleep Number. So I was providing them better quality sleep, which is a better quality life. I worked at Liberty Mutual Insurance as an agent. When I sat at people's kitchen table, I got to meet the family members that we were protecting with life insurance. I got to meet and see their beautiful cars in their garages and in their driveways that we were protecting and their homes that we were sitting in. And so I always connected it to the why. But then in 2017, I got divorced, and it was a big wallop again, the frying pan moment, because all these things I started to do, I realized were not really connected to that dream I had when I was a kid, that media dream, media production. And so in 2017, I got to like look myself in the mirror and say, dude, if you could do whatever you wanted tomorrow when you wake up, what would that be? And I think there's a Steve Jobs quote or interview where he was talking about that kind of concept of just what would you do if not, you could just do whatever you wanted and get paid any amount of money. So I started to realize I had this entrepreneurial dream. It ties in with podcasting. As I was driving around as an insurance agent and sales rep or store manager for Sleep Number, I always had my podcasts on, and they always were personal development, business, and entrepreneurship. And eventually the question was, why not me? And when I was divorced, it's like nobody could tell me no. So I started my own company in 2017. And that's how I got into podcasting, is because I started to do media. And eventually enough people asked me to produce their podcasts. I decided to start my own. I produced their shows, and we 10x'd our company in a pandemic year last year. So here we are today.
Yeah.
I know that's a super long-winded answer, but it gives you like the perspective.
You notice I didn't interrupt you at all. I was enjoying the story. And to me, it's like all the pieces assembled in your life through different modes and modalities, but they all came together. Thank goodness for the person who said, hey, what about doing this? What about pursuing your dream? Have you ever done that? Right now we've got from last year, the great resignation with all these people quitting. And I'm sure you're up to speed that a lot of those people are quitting to become entrepreneurs. And one of the first courses that I taught in college was a career course where I would ask people, what do you want to do? And I'd have them go through a number of tests. And then it's amazing how oftentimes the direction they were pursuing got changed when they actually asked themselves the hard question, like you did. What if I could do anything at all? What would I want to do? Where are my motivations, my passions, that type of thing. I'm pretty sure that, the American public, there's an awful lot of people who've never asked that question. So I'm hoping that you share that story, that you asked that question, because I think a lot of people right now could benefit by it. Those people who are out there, they left their job and whether it's to start a business or they don't know what they want to do, you're giving them a good pathway. Hey, you need to start asking some hard questions of yourself.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, like entrepreneurship definitely is the right choice for the right person. So I think if you're chasing it because you think, you see like a millionaire on social media and you're like, oh, I want that Lamborghini, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur because that's what it says in his profile. That's a totally wrong reason to do it. But if you realize what you want to achieve and how you feel you can serve, again, like I said, literally serve the people on this planet. When you attack it that way and you find out what your actual purpose is, if it means that, then there's going to be a product or service that we offer that either doesn't exist yet, or we're going to do it bigger and better than how it's done today, or you want to actually like change the paradigm of whatever industry you're in, then I think, entrepreneurship's the right way. But if someone's like really enjoys, maybe they were a sales rep for a company like me and they became a store manager and they love it and they just go in there and they just love the product and service and they're one of the best in the game, and that's what they like. That's what they like. Like, you and I both love sports. I know you're down in Atlanta, right? And
Right.
I'm in Buffalo, and we got the Bills in the playoffs here, looking really good. Played their best game possibly ever on Sunday against the Patriots. Look, these guys are part of an organization within the NFL, so they're not entrepreneurs, but they're living their dreams. So not everybody. The what I'm trying to say is entrepreneurship isn't the answer for every solution or problem, I should say. But the most important thing is find your purpose. Once you do that, then the wheels start to come onto the car and it gets fueled up.
Yeah, one thing that we have in common is this dedication of our lives to helping others. A question that I have around that topic is that can result in uh, putting everything that you have to give, and that can exhaust you if you're not careful. How do you get fed? How do you
Yeah.
replenish? How do you, build back the energy so that you can then give more?
It's a really great question. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but when you start to realize it's not for you, it's for a bigger purpose than you, then how do you not get driven by that? Because then you're responsible for helping other people with their outcomes. I'll give an example. You teased it in the intro. I was nominated a couple years ago, and the only reason I bring this up is I think it could help people in the audience, including maybe
Okay.
yourself. I was asked and nominated to be Man of the Year for LLS. Hey, that sounds great, Man of the Year. Who wouldn't love that title? But then I realized all the work and stuff that would go into it. And I was a struggling entrepreneur. It was just a couple years ago before I started to turn the corner. And I remember sitting at a coffee shop with my friend who I haven't seen her in 10 years, so we're catching up. And she's like, I got this great job. I'm the campaign manager for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in Buffalo, and it's our first time ever doing Man of the Year. And I'm like, that's awesome. This is so great. I'm happy to see you doing well. And she's like, I want to nominate you. I was like, me? What do you mean? Like, why me? She's like, well, you're always out there. You have a big heart. You're helping people. I think you'd be good to like be one of the faces of this for Buffalo in our inaugural year. And I'm thinking to myself, the first thing I thought is, how the heck would I ever do this? I don't have any time. I don't have the resources right now. I'm already drained, basically. I wasn't sleeping. I was doing like the 12, 15-hour days, which still occur at times now. And I'm thinking, how can I pour from an empty cup?
Right.
So I didn't say no to her and I didn't say yes to her. I just said, let me think about it, pray on it, resonate, and see what happens. And I remember realizing, hey, you know what? It's not about pouring from an empty cup. It's about realizing that the way will be, the path will be provided for you if you put in the time and energy and just realize that some things you don't know how it's going to turn out. And then I also realized if I raised $100 for that campaign, boom, that's a win, right? I wouldn't win it because you have to typically in those you raise $50,000 to $100,000, you might win it. But my whole point was I realized I may win it. I don't do anything, never lose. So I was totally in it. She knew I was amped up. She could see the warrior in my eyes. I was ready to roll. And the reason I said yes to it was because I realized God put me in that seat to be the one that she asked in that moment. So I very much was kind of pouring from the empty cup, and my family was like, "You're crazy. You don't have time and energy to do that. Like you're trying to get yourself out of the hole that you kind of put yourself in by stepping away from a great corporate job to be 100% entrepreneur. Like one good month, one bad month. How are you going to survive?" And here I am, like raising money for kids with blood cancer, right? Well, my purpose. I realized it wasn't about me. And then I also have a 3-year-old cousin, at the time was 2, and he was battling leukemia. He's now past remission and he's doing great. He just had his 3rd birthday. Cheers to Ben. And so when I saw him and like found out from my family that he was sick, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this for Ben. I'm doing this for other families that are dealing with people going through blood cancer. I had a ton of family members over the years with different kinds of cancers, and I saw how it really impacts your life. And I've also interviewed people who were involved with leukemia or lost family members to leukemia. So it was on my heart, and I said yes. And guess what? I didn't win, but I ended up raising a lot more money than I thought. And
Uh-huh.
we ended up collectively raising over $150,000
Oh,
for,
fabulous.
um, and so how about that for a win, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's when I think about that as it relates to me, a couple of things that you said that I could always go back. We could probably talk way longer than we have time for today, for sure. But whenever I get, you talked about the up days and the down days and how you're gonna make it. Whenever I get the most afraid in my business, I realize I'm trying to control too much, and that I'm not asking enough questions and listening for the answers so that my direction is shown to me in terms of what I'm doing. And it as you very well spoke about, the reward for this giving of helping people is in being able to help people. It's just inherently rewarding. It's as great as it is when you get nominated for an award. Like you said, you didn't really even need that. It's a matter of knowing that you're making a difference is what the reward is, the inherent reward in it. And nobody needs to tell you, thank you,
Yeah.
Mike, you impacted my life. It's nice to hear those things, and I know that you get lots of those comments, and you probably cherish them as I do. But
Sure.
when when you can hear it in somebody's voice or see it in their eyes that you helped them, that's the biggest reward you can get.
Yeah, and I wanted to help my friend too. I mean, it was her responsibility for the success of that campaign, and I could tell that she was passionate about it, and also that it would help her, if we did well. So there are multiple reasons for it, but it certainly wasn't for me to just, win an award or anything. That would have been cool, but that wasn't even close to why I said yes. So, again, tie it back to the purpose and the reason for it, and find things. Every community has different things that will connect to your heart. And I'll say this, like, as an adult, now, and especially a dad now, I have a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. Giving a gift feels better than receiving it, at least to me. I'll speak for myself. And I think most people will agree. When you're a kid, all you think about is the new toy you're getting for Christmas, your birthday. You can't help it. That's just how we're wired. That's kind of natural. And you learn, I'm teaching my daughter gratitude and giving as well. But my point is, like, when she thinks of her birthday and Christmas, she's associating it with getting gifts.
Right.
But now when we think of birthdays and Christmas, we think of giving gifts. And the most magical thing is, like, when you see someone's, face, when you surprise them with something they didn't expect. That's the magic of it. And when you give to different things in the world, it doesn't have to be monetary, like always money. It could be your time. It could
Right.
be a 30-second conversation with your friend who called you when they're hurting, and you just took real time to get real with them and help them out. That's a gift.
Yeah.
So your gifts could be anything from your talents that you give. Like, I'm in the worship and tech team at my church, and that's giving a lot of time every week. But I also know that God gave me the gifts to drum, and he gave me the gifts to really be good visually, like understanding what goes into a visual production. And those things are interesting to me and fuel me up. And now I serve. I put on with a great team around me, for sure. It's not all me. I'm not even close to saying that. But we have a great team in place, and we put on I'd say, world-class production. And it's because everybody comes to it with the giving first mentality.
When we come back, we're going to talk some more with Mike DiCioccio about his podcast business, and stay tuned. The number one reason why most people are unsuccessful is that they hate doing the work. Man, I don't even want to think about getting prepared. For those of you who are really struggling with, I don't really want to do the work, I've done most of the work for you. I've made the process easier. All you got to do is pick up one piece of material and everything that you need is there. I guarantee it. I've got thousands of students from my classes who've been successful using this approach. I know it works. You need to up your game. You can do it, but you got to figure out what's the best way for me to do it. You know you need to start preparing now. Everything that I knew over 40 years is in my book and in my interviewing skills online course. Everybody's got a favorite learning style. All you got to do is watch it, read it, listen to it. See you. And we're back, and my guest today is Mike DiCioccio. Mike, you talked a little bit about your podcast and your podcast business. Let me give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more about exactly what you do, and searching for anybody out there who's looking to start a podcast, become an entrepreneur, and have a podcast. Run with that for a while.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it. I fell in love with podcasting back in about 2016. As I said, I was in sales, using it as a way to get information inside business tips and strategies and listening to entrepreneurship. And that fueled me up. And it really felt, it was cool. It's like being a fly in the wall for listening to people who've been there, done that. And I noticed the common theme and thread is that a lot of the entrepreneurs I was listening to didn't wake up, but they weren't spoon fed into their business. It was they had these long and windy roads. It was a lot of comeback stories and stuff. So I was really interested in that. And the books I was reading had very similar common denominators. And then I was interested to start my own show and start to interview entrepreneurs. So A, I can learn from them. B, we could also serve our audience. And I realized the mission of my show, I was trying to figure out why I would want to do a podcast. And the purpose and mission is to inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. A lot of times I was meeting people and they would tell me they had this idea, but they didn't start, or they weren't happy with where they're at today. And I just thought, okay, there needs to be more content out there to help people get to at least start it or get to where they want to go. And I was also in the process of doing that, which was kind of neat, because I was always transparent. As the host of my own show, look, I realized I'm also starting a new business. I'm learning a lot, and I share a lot of what I learn on the show. But also, it's for me to get out of the way. Like, you do a great job of letting your guests shine and tell their story, and it's the same thing on my show. So I interview everybody from entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, authors. I've had Olympic athletes on, some really cool people, musicians with really amazing stories. And that's why I love podcasting. It's storytelling, and the content I love and tune into and produce is inspiring stories. And so that's what Mic'd Up is. And then what happened is I launched my show in 2019, November 2019. And a month later, so December of 2019, a client that we were producing video testimonials for down in Florida, which was great. I got to escape down there in the winter a couple of years ago. They loved the video. They were one of our best clients, and they took great care of us. And a month into that, or a couple months into it, when my show came out, after they already knew me and we had a good relationship, they're like, "You do podcasting?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have my own podcast." Like, "Well, our board of directors has been talking about launching this thing, and is there somehow you can maybe help us with it or run the show?" And I literally thought they wanted me to like just roadmap it for them, which I did. And they're like, "No, we want you to do it for us." I was like, "Oh, that's a different story." So then I put a proposal together. They signed the deal. They paid me. I got paid handsomely compared to the other things I was doing, which was like social media management, website design, SEO. And here's what happened. I launched my business in 2017, Social Chameleon. But after a couple of years, I started to realize I wasn't even doing the things that I was super excited about. But podcasting, I woke up and I flew to the microphone. I flew to my interviews. I just loved producing them. I love editing video, and most of the podcasts I was doing was video. So I was like, hey, this is really cool. I enjoy it. Now I'm getting paid to do it. I added it to our website, and I started to talk to people about it on Zoom calls, doing like virtual networking like crazy, even pre-pandemic. And I realized a lot of people were asking me more about podcasting than like everything else we offered. So, and anytime I had business coaches give me advice, they always said I was doing too much and it was confusing, and I wasn't being great in any aspect, because I was like, imagine a dentist who is also trying to do 7 other businesses. He's not going to be the best dentist anymore. Right, but if he's a dentist and all he does is work on people's teeth all day long, he's going to be great at it, or there's a better chance he's going to have a success. So I realized, okay, if I had to narrow it down, I'm going to go with podcasting, because that's what I love and that's what I feel we do a great job with. And it's also wasn't super saturated, where like when I told people I did social media, I think they were like jaded because their inboxes on LinkedIn were like all just people trying to sell them social media management, promise them 1 million followers on Instagram. And it's like, no, that's not what we're about. We really wanted to help people create content that would tell inspiring stories. And so that's why Social Chameleon made the pivot. And the pandemic hit, and a lot of our like in-person shoots and things we were doing previous to podcasting were canceled, and things weren't looking really up. But the thing that was interesting to me is all my podcasting clients were still able to record, submit the content virtually. We worked on it remotely. We produced it. We got it back to them, and we could still air the shows no differently pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and currently today, which is still, I guess, current pandemic, year 2.5 of it now. So that was interesting to me. It's like, oh, we could still operate and we can actually grow the company during hard times. Not that I'm saying we benefited from it by any means. I would never say that. It's horrible what's going on, what's been happening. But in a sense, like the only thing you can do is try to figure out how you can get better from a hard situation. And that's what we've done. So that's how I actually started. Like my interest in podcasting was as a user and consumer. Then I created my own show, and I was working with a friend, Dave Mamano, who's out in Rochester. Shout out to Dave. He's the one who kind of got me turned on to the idea of producing his show for him. That was kind of like, working with him. And then he's actually responsible for that lead that gave me into the first podcasting client that was really paying me nicely for it. And then really from there, it was like, I'll say this to anybody who's listening. If you do something once, you can do it a million times. So if you sell your first insurance policy, you can be the best insurance policy sales rep in that company. If you're selling website design and you just close your first deal, you could be the best in the business because you did it. Now you can improve on how you did it and you could do it more frequently. So really, I was sold on the fact that I did this thing once, which was launch a podcast for a different person other than myself, and I just fell in love and ran with it.
Yeah, you are a good listener, is the way I would characterize you. You are listening to what the world is bringing your way. It seems like you're, I think you would agree with this. One of the keys to being a successful entrepreneur is taking advantage of opportunities when they present themselves if they feel right at the time. But you've got to be listening to what they are, so for somebody to say, hey, would you produce it for me? Oh, I hadn't thought about that before. And then you're saying, well, how does that fit? And so you're listening to why was this brought into my life if not for me to really examine it, which, the connection that I make with I love the topic of your podcast. First off, Mike, I think right now there are tons of people who would benefit by looking you up, Mike DiCioccio, mic'd up, and tuning in and subscribing to it, because I think right now there's an awful lot of people running around out there who need inspiration. They need motivation. They need that encouragement. This has been a really tough time. So I love the topic of your podcast. And then the way you got there, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Dan Rather, I love the interviews that he does. He interviewed Bill Gates and Warren Buffett separately. And when asked the question, what is the key to your success as a business starter, obviously the entrepreneur, but eventually developing businesses, they both said focus. And when you got the comment about, hey, Mike, you're all over the place, what you did is you said, I need to focus. And where would I focus? Let me focus in where my heart is, where my passion is. So I love the fact that you're listening to all those things and kind of, grabbing them all and then shaking them and saying what's going to pop out the bottom. And you positioned yourself really well, I think, for right now, where people are. Not only so many people going into wanting to be an entrepreneur, but also needing that motivation. Is there a common thread with your guests in terms of their struggles? Because I can tell you personally, I've been doing my own business for 33 years now, and the first 2 years I started, I was scared every day about going out of business. And so you've heard lots of stories from lots of entrepreneurs. Summarize that, if you will. What do you glean is in common with those that might be a key to successful entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Well, I have over 116 episodes now. So it's a collective, it's not like I've interviewed 3 people and I've only heard 3 common things. So over 100 plus interviews, to put it in perspective, the number one thing that you need to do, it's required to do, is to start. And a lot of the common themes is that people started without having it all figured out. Because if you try to wait until you have the magic potion created, if it's a product, imagine that you're trying to create this perfect widget or product that you can get into the market. Well, guess what? By the time you spend all the resource and time and energy to make it perfect, it's already a dinosaur in the industry because you waited too long. Things that are out in the market, people are learning, they're getting analytics. Today we get surveys, reviews. We can track user functionality, and like by the time a product's out 6 months later, it's already dated, right? So I would say the common thing is that people got started and then they learned about their product service themselves and their business as it's going, and you're always tweaking it as you go. So the best of the best have tried and failed more times than the average person even thought of an idea and then even took action on it. So I'd say take action, number one. Be aware. I really, that's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said about me is what you just said there about the fact of listening or actually being aware of kind of what's going on. Awareness is huge. If you're in a situation, whether it's a relationship with a spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, anybody, a friend, and you don't have awareness, you're not going to realize the things that you're doing maybe could correct. And that's a big problem because if you don't know what's happening, how do you correct it? Well, in business, if you keep making the same 18 mistakes over and over again, you're never going to grow. So you need to have awareness, checks and balances. Smartest thing I did in the last 12 months was I got a coach. I hired a business and personal coach because I don't always know what I'm doing right or wrong. And even though I have awareness, I don't, I might think of it and realize I goofed up and try to correct it, but then life happens. And then I'm taking care of my daughter, my business and everything else. And 6 days later, I forgot how I felt, but my coach will pull it out of me. He'll be like, hey, what was that one thing that you said you wanted to do and you didn't do yet? What's going on? Right? Accountability is huge.
Yeah.
So I would say like those kind of handful of elements is take action, have awareness and accountability. And kind of the last piece of it is you're not going to be the best at every part of your business. So hire the people to do the things that you don't have a passion for. You're not great at, like accounting for me. I'm terrible with it. I hired someone to do our bookkeeping. If it's fitness and you're struggling with your fitness, get a personal fitness coach if you can. If your answer right now to that mentally, you just heard me say that and you're like, I don't have the money to do it. Well, guess what? If you have a smartphone and you have the internet or Wi-Fi, you can go on YouTube, you can get workouts. And the same thing with business. If you're not able to hire a business coach or get the $1,000 business in a box, or if you're a franchise, you think about doing a franchise and it's $100,000. I don't have the money. Well, guess what? You can get free resources, go to a library, open up a book and get to work.
Great information. And I love the part about where you're saying you don't have to know it all. I think so many people feel like I don't know enough to start. And you're saying just start and then be open, do your research, get a mentor. There's lots of ways to be successful at this. If you have the drive, and the drive comes from a worthy purpose, from your passion for what you already do well, but probably what you do better than most people, hardly trying. And obviously you have found the perfect place for you. I think all the listeners would be really benefit to check out your podcast, subscribe, and any of you who are interested in even thinking about doing a podcast, give Mike a shout. Okay, he'll walk you through the steps, and then from that you'll be able to determine whether or not that's right for you. Mike, where can people find you?
Yeah, so our company is Social Chameleon, and it's Chameleon spelled CHAMELEON. So socialchameleon.us. And we do podcasting for you. So the idea is that you simply press record, upload the files, and we do the rest. We turn it into social media content for you. We get the intros, outros, the teaser for you. Everything's set up. You literally get to hop on your microphone and do your show, and the rest is taken care of. If you're interested in Mic'd Up, thank you so much for teasing that a few times today. People can go to mikeduppodcast.com, and it's spelled MIKED up. So Mic'd Up podcast.com. And there's, again, over 115 episodes on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, wherever you like to tune in. And one last thing I'll say to finish my thought about getting started. One mistake I made that I want to share is that I did get started and kind of like jump out of the plane and know that I needed to build the parachute on the way down. But if I can go back and do it again, or next time I create a business from the ground up, I would do more research up front. So you have some, maybe learn how to build a parachute, at least to some degree. So when you're on the way down and it's like you're in constant turmoil, you have a little bit of an understanding of what to do there. Because otherwise you're trying to build it and find the resources for it at the same time, and it's tougher. So I would definitely say it's smarter to have a plan, because I'll give a really good example. Okay, I see behind you, it looks like there's a town or a cityscape kind of out the window, right?
Right.
So if let's say you live down there, right? And you said, Mike, I want you to come over. Hey, let's get dinner sometime. Come over to my place, whatever. We'll hang out, we'll watch a football game. Cool. Well, if you told me exact directions to get there, I'm going to have what kind of chance to get there? A highly likely chance I'm going to be at your door, knock, knock, here I am. If you said it's a blue house on a corner street next to this particular building, and I've never been to Atlanta before, I may get there because it's going to take me a lot longer. So yeah, maybe after 6 months, I'll find your house, but I'll be tired, weathered, and it didn't have to be that hard. So I think a lot of times, yeah, get started and have that fiery, kick the door in. But at the same time, it's cool to use a roadmap at the same,
Right.
That's my point.
Great advice, Mike. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I am absolutely certain that the viewers not only heard your passion, but also heard your words of advice, and that it's not the easiest thing to do, but you can get there if you want to, and if you have the drive, and if you know that not only are you driving the ship, but you've got help. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and all you have to do is listen for and accept the help when it comes. So
it's okay to get help, guys. It's okay to not be okay. That's personal. That's business. The best of the best have coaches. Michael Jordan had coaches. Tom Brady has coaches. Elon Musk has people that he gets advisement from. I don't care who you are. There's always someone that can help you out. And it's okay to get help, because that doesn't mean that you're weak in any mean. It doesn't mean you're weak-minded or weak-spirited. You're just simply saying, hey, I want that roadmap so I can come over and get there quicker.
yeah,
It's all about speed.
Not knowing it all is not a weakness. It actually can be turned into a strength when you invite in help from other people who have probably crossed that pathway already, and they're sharing their expertise with you as you did today, Mike. Mike, really appreciate you being on the show. Check Mike DiCioccio out. He's out there. He's got lots of great content. Check out his Mic'd Up show. If you're interested in a podcast, check him out there too. He's got great words of advice. That's it for another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. I want to thank all of you for listening. Till next time, stay cool, have good thoughts. See you.